Okay, so you've done a lot of teaching. Do you still do any teaching?
I love teaching.
Okay.
And I serve a lot on advisory boards, and that's a kind of teaching that pays better than teaching generally. But I was officially teaching at the Academy of Art University up in San Francisco, which is the largest private art school in the U.S. And I was on their advisory board to the owner. And every year, her kids would come out and they'd do this sort of showcase thing, and they were like, here's our concept art and our design docs. I was like, go fuck yourselves. Like, why aren't they shipping games? They're not going to learn how to make games unless they ship games. And they said, well, fuck you, teach them how to make, how to ship games. I was like, okay, let's do that. And so I had this gig where they flew me up once a week to San Francisco to teach these classes on game production. And so they had a lot of money. So I said, okay, the first thing we're going to do is simulate a Steam-like website. We're going to make a portal. And then I'm going to make my kids ship a game a week. And if they don't ship, they get an F. And if they ship anything that runs, they get a C. And then I would give them a separate thing, which is either bronze, silver, or gold on their game. Bronze means it's better than crap. Silver means that there's one or two things keeping you from like putting a price tag on it and selling it. And gold means you could just sell this right now. And out of like 127 games or something, it was a lot of crap.
Sure.
But there were dozens and dozens of bronzes, and I think there was like 1 or 2 dozen silvers and 2 golds. Two out of those games, there were 2 that I was convinced we can go make money off of this right now if you wanted to on a real platform. And these were games that all were either 1 to 4 weeks maximum in duration, and to be able to make a game that you could make money off of in 2 to 4 weeks, that's that's not easy.
Yeah, have any of your students gone on to great success? Have you
They all got jobs in the industry,
Okay.
which I was very proud by, but I haven't kept up very well. I'm not a very responsible teacher in that way.
Do you think it's worth like going to these like game schools? I always kind of advise people to just go get a real 4-year degree. But my information might be out of date. It's like,
It's a little out of date. Yeah, so
Yeah.
some of the schools are actually really good now. DigiPen actually forces their devs to make an engine from scratch.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So by the time you're done with that, you're like, do not fuck around good. Full Sail's quite good. The USC program's pretty good. It just depends on who you get.
Sure.
But there's a handful of schools that are excellent, and there's a lot of them that are just
Yeah, I mean, I've
milking
hired
people.
some people from the school you taught at, I believe, and I
Academy
based
of
it
Yeah.
based off their portfolio. I was like, oh, did you, they show me the projects and they make a lot of interesting projects. And then all I have to do is ask them questions to make sure they actually worked on it.
Yeah.
And then it's worked out because, yeah, it's actually a pretty good education in
that's
development.
great.
Yeah.
That's great to hear.
I just kind of think that sometimes you're gonna not want to make games anymore, and it might help if you just got a comp sci degree. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, certainly it's a better fallback, right?
Yeah.
But I've heard stories from coders that say the fact that they have a history in game development is actually sort of a bad mark on them as coders in serious space. Like if you're going to go work on a back end for a website or something, they're a little more nervous about you as a game developer. Even though it's like, I don't know why that is. Like, it's harder to be a game developer.
Yeah, I mean,
they feel like you're less serious.
I use the analogy all the time. It's like, and it's a little bit better now, but like, trying to get a regular job in programming after being in game development is like trying to get a regular job after you've been like, in porno.
Circus clown.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it just reminds me of this. I always am reminded of the scene in Boogie Nights where Don Cheadle tries to get the loan to like open the stereo store, and they find out that he did porn.
Yeah.
And they just cut him right off. And it's like, I just kind of feel like games have this stigma, but not so much anymore, because I feel like games are so much more common than they were when I started my company, that there's a little bit more understanding that game development is real programming.
To your porn comment,
Yeah.
my favorite interview question of Seth Rogen is it true you hired Stormy Daniels for some of your movies? And goes, yes. We learned early on in our filmmaking career that if you have a nude scene, it's always best to hire a porn actress because it's going to be the easiest work they do all week. They don't, they don't have to put anything inside of them, and they're very comfortable being naked. And I was like, yes. And this is what people should think about game developers. It's like, you want me to do something and you don't need me to do it at 60 frames a second.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, no fucking problem, man.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of tell people all the time, like when you compare game developers to sort of like regular web developers, web developers are kind of like the programming equivalent of people who think food comes from the supermarket.